giving us the time to join us today at the inaugural edition of Canada-India Insight virtual conference. So if everyone is ready, we can begin.
Is it morning in Canada?
Yes, sir. It's 10. It's just about 10:15 in the morning.
Yes. Is it morning? Okay.
So High Commissioner ji is here. Mr. Ajay Bisaria ji, the Consul General Apurva Srivastav is also here. So are other speakers. And so I will start with my welcome address, and then we'll hear from the Honorable Minister. So welcome to Canada-India Insight virtual conference, hosted by Impact Media and Events Corporation, IMEC, and supported by Canada-India USA Development Forum, or CIUDF. I am your host, Vipul Jani. This conference was originally scheduled for March 25 as an in-person event at Paramount Event Space in Vaughan, but postponed because of the pandemic, and now hosted virtually. Hopefully, we'll be able to host the conference again in person soon, by the looks of it now, early next year. Impact Media and Events Corporation, as well as Canada-India USA Development Forum, jointly organizes webinars and events on the Canada-India and USA corridor. We have hosted a Canada-India USA Trilateral Conference, a Celebrating Success Gala, a Global Gujarati Award Gala, and also publish Canada-India Insight, a monthly online publication focusing exclusively on the Canada-India corridor. The forum is also now accepting new memberships and have just created an advisory board. So yesterday, Dr. Trevin Stratton, the chief economist for Canadian Chamber of Commerce, has also joined our advisory board. That is news from yesterday. And our next project is Pyara Punjab, a year-long celebration of Punjab and the Punjabi community, a multifaceted bilateral project with virtual and in-person events, gala, short videos, films, interviews, articles, virtual coffee table book, and much more. And it will take place in multiple cities and provinces in both Canada and India. And we'll be announcing the details in the next few days. So coming back to the conference today, let me first thank all our speakers for accepting our invitation to join us today. Honorable Shri Som Prakash ji, Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India, High Commissioner of India to Canada, His Excellency Mr. Ajay Bisaria, Leader of the Official Opposition and Conservative Party of Canada, Honorable Erin O'Toole, Honorable Fedeli, Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Government of Ontario, Honorable Ranj Pillai, Deputy Premier of Yukon, Mr. Sandeep Goel, President and CEO of ICICI Bank Canada, and Mr. David Agnew, President of Seneca College, and Mr. Vivek from Invest India. The Honorable the Consul General is also with us today. I would also like to thank IMEC sponsors, Surti Sweetmart, Tangentia, ICICI Bank, and Seneca for their continued support. And a special thank you to Prashant Srivastava, Director for South Asia, Seneca International, for his valuable support in this conference. As I mentioned earlier, we may not have all the speakers throughout the conference because it's a 2.5 hour event. So we will try to do the best we can, and after individual remarks, maybe try to squeeze in 1 or 2 questions if we can. Depending upon the time that we have, the speakers' availability, we may also have a brief 10-15 minute Q&A at the end. So let me welcome our keynote speaker for today, Minister Som Prakash ji, to formally open the conference. And before that, let me read out his profile. Som Prakash ji is the Minister of State for Commerce and Industry, Government of India. a member of parliament from Hoshiarpur, Punjab. Parkash ji has done MA with economics. A retired IAS officer, Mr. Parkash ji has held several important portfolios, including as Deputy Commissioner for Faridkot, Hoshiarpur and Jalandhar, Managing Director for Punjab Financial Corporation, Director of Social Security and Labour Commissioner for Punjab, an MLA for Punjab, and now an MP for Hoshiarpur. Please welcome Honorable Minister Parkash ji.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
Honorable Mr. Erin O'Toole, Leader of Opposition. Honorable Mr. Vivek, Minister of Economic Development of Ontario Province. Honorable Mr. Ranj, Pillai, Deputy Premier of Yukon. Mr. Ajay, Bisaria, High Commissioner of India to Canada. Mrs. Rupa Srivastava, India's Consul General in Toronto, Canada. Other dignitaries, officers of the IMEC Media and Event Corporation. It's my proud privilege to be with you in this conference. COVID-19 is a global pandemic that has impacted the whole world. We are confident that we will come out stronger and there will be a sharp rise in the commercial exchanges of both the countries. We are encouraging different companies, including Canadian companies, to look at India as a dependable supplier in global value chains, as a destination for manufacturing, and as a profitable investment destination. India, with its youthful and skilled population, competitive labor rates, a growing domestic market, and democratic and rule-based governance system, is an obvious choice. In this task, I would like to enlist that support of the various chambers of commerce in Canada, of the Indo-Canadian Business Community. Now we are open for business and would be very happy to guide and support Canadian business as they explore possibilities in India. The biggest lesson that we have learned from COVID-19 is how interconnected we all are, and how we must cooperate to ensure not only continued prosperity, but our very survival also. It's all of us who have to collectively give a shape to the future. Our growth agenda must place the poor and the vulnerable at the core. Recent experiences has taught us that the global economy has been too focused on efficiency and optimization. The pandemic has also demonstrated the folly of global supply chains relying heavily on single supplier. India is an attractive alternative to firms looking to diversify their supply chains options. As our Prime Minister said recently, there is a global optimism towards India. This is because India offers a perfect combination of openness, opportunities, and options. India has made great gains in areas such as total financial inclusion, record housing, infrastructure construction, ease of doing business, bold tax reforms, including GST, rollout of the world's largest healthcare initiative, the Ayushman Bharat. These gains have set the foundation for the next round of development with open markets. Reforms have ensured increased competitiveness, enhanced transparency, expanded digitization, greater innovation, and more policy stability. India is again being seen as a land of opportunities. The initiative of our Prime Minister in creating an Atmanirbhar Bharat is a reiteration of India's global reach and role. Initiatives in recent years, such as relaxing FDI norms across sectors such as defense, PSU, oil refineries, telecom, power exchanges, stock exchange, among others. These technology-driven growth in India has inspired greater investment into India. FDI inflow in India in 2019-20 was 74 billion US dollars. This has an increase of 20% from the last year before that. Even during the ongoing pandemic, India has attracted foreign investment of more than 20 billion US dollars between April and July 2020. In the last 5 years, Canadian investment in India has increased from 5 billion US dollars to over 50 billion US dollars. Indian Canadian relations are multifaceted and growing strongly every day. India and Canada will need to collaborate not only the health, medical aspect of dealing with the pandemic, but also will have to have an important role in subsequent economic recovery and in building a post-COVID mechanism. The people-to-people relations with 1.6 million Canadians in Indian heritage and almost 7 lakh Indians living in Canada, including 2,30,000 students in Canadian universities and colleges. The committee has provided 4 cabinet ministers in the current government, also with 21 MPs in the parliament. This gives a very strong base for growth of India-Canada relations. Canada is an important source of primary produce to India, including uranium, potash, and coal. Indian exports pharmaceuticals, steel, and IT services to Canada. Our president, in his recent goodwill mission to Canada, Governor General on the occasion of the Canada Day, has called India and Canada as natural partners. On the most important aspect, relationship will be the increasing people-to-people exchanges, particularly as Canada continues to rely on immigrations. Indian students have increasingly been choosing Canadian education institutions, and India has become a net provider of human resources capital to Canada. These trends will ensure our relationship, and in future our relations will get deepened. We look forward for thick relations and for close cooperation with the two governments and the investment in flow of FDI from Canada. In the end, I pray for the good health of all of you, your families, and in the entire world. Let us all united work and get rid of this global disease. And my good wishes to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful remarks, Honorable Minister Parkash ji. Now, I know you have another commitment and you have to go, but I still want to, since you won't be joining us for the Q&A later, I just want to post one quick question to you. You know, so I am sure you will be in touch with your Canadian counterpart. And so if you can tell us a little bit, about the conversations you are having now, and when things become normal, would you like to visit Canada again? I assume you have been here before.
It is our dialogue. We are always ready to visit and discuss with you regarding investments, regarding our relationships. We have common interests. We are the largest democracy in the world. So we are friendly countries. It's a privilege to come to you and meet you people, and your people are always welcome to come to India. And lakhs of people of the Indian region live in Canada. And from my constituencies, lakhs of people must be living in from Sharpur district, and Jalandhar, I am Deputy Commissioner at Jalandhar as well as Sharpur. So our attachment with Canada is foremost, and lot of number of citizens from people from India region from Sharpur and Jalandhar live there in Canada. So it will be our privilege to come to you, sir.
Absolutely, yeah. So in my recent conversation with Minister Mary Ng last week, I mean, every time we talk about Canada, India, the first thing that comes up is what is the progress on CIPA and FIPA. I mean, that's what everybody begins with, and that's what usually it ends with. So if you can give us a quick update on that as well, and then if Mr. Deepak Anand wants to, have a quick word.
We are always open for talks, and we are with open mind. We can discuss the things at any time when you require.
Vipul, can I say?
Yes, sure.
Yes.
Go ahead.
First of all, Namaste, Marnaniya.
Namaskar.
नमस्कार जी, मेरा नाम दीपक आनंद है, मैं member of provincial parliament आप पंजाब च जिन्हों MLA कहते हैं, so I'm from Ontario government and I would like.
Thank you very much.
हाँ
आप
जी.
कहाँ से हो पंजाब से?
मैं जी born पटियाला से हूँ, पर सारी मेरी जो पढ़ाई है चंडीगढ़ से है, मोहाली से है.
Very good, good.
मैं मोहाली तो हैगा, but it is always good to see you taking time and coming, और जेड़ा ਤੁਹਾਡਾ आना साडे लिए बहुत important है. अपने हाई कमिश्नर अजय जी, अपूर्वा जी are doing an incredible job on a daily basis. ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਨੇ, ਹੁਸ਼ਿਆਰਪੁਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ
ਜੀ,
ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋ-ਚੇਅਰ ਸੀਗੇ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਹ ਹੁਸ਼ਿਆਰਪੁਰ ਤੋਂ ਨੇ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਰਾਕੇਸ਼ ਜੋਸ਼ੀ. ਹੀ ਇਜ਼ ਡੂਇੰਗ ਵੈਰੀ ਗੁੱਡ ਹੇਅਰ. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਲਾਇਰ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਚੰਗਾ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ. ਪਰ ਅਗੇਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ
ਜੀ,
ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਹੈਗੀ, we also have a majority government and it's a pro business government and we were there last year also. So through this ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਚੈਨਲ ਹੈਗਾ, ਮੈਂ ਇਹੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ thank you for coming, but more than thank you for coming, we want to build a relationship. ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਠਿਆਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੀਏ. ਇੱਥੇ ਦੇ ਡਾਇਸਪੋਰਾ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਤਾਕਤ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਦ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, और ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਫਰਕ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ. So I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for doing an incredible job and being here. जी, thank you so much.
देखिए आप you are from पंजाब से हो आप, बहुत अच्छा लगता है जो पंजाबियों को मिलता है. It's very nice. देखिए you are कहीं भी वर्ल्ड में जाओ, your roots are here. You love to talk Punjabi. You love to the welfare of Punjabi people and Indian people. It's natural है, it's not natural. We all are. वहाँ जाओ मर्जी रहे, तो दिल में तांग तो अपनी मातृभूमि की होती है, माँ बोली की होती है, तो इससे प्यार करना इससे तो अच्छी बात है. जिस कंट्री में रहना है उसकी प्रोग्रेस करें, उसमें डेवलपमेंट में हिस्सा डालें, और पीछे जहाँ से है उसके साथ भी रिलेशनशिप रखें, रूट्स के साथ रिलेशनशिप रखें. विद द जनरेशन ग्रोइंग कई बार रूट्स कट जाती हैं. तो मैं आई रिक्वेस्ट यू पीपल, लेट अस, पंजाब इज वंडरफुल प्लेस. इंडिया की सबसे फर्टाइल लैंड है, आपको पता है. बहादुर लोग है यहाँ के. आप लोगों ने यहाँ अगर अपना नाम लाया है, इतने आप मिनिस्टर बने हो, MP बने हो, इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ प्राइड फॉर अस. हमारे बहुत मान वाली गल है. पंजाब वाले खुश होते हैं कि हमारे इतने MPs हैं और इतने मिनिस्टर हैं वहाँ पे. सो जो भी कोऑपरेट हम करके एक दूसरे की डेवलपमेंट में कम्प्लीमेंट्री टू ईच अदर हो, तो बहुत सारी और बातें करने से तो डेवलपमेंट की बात करें. विकास सबसे बड़ी चीज, इंसान की तरक्की की, इंसानियत की सेहत के लिए. आपके प्राइम मिनिस्टर जैसे जो वैक्सीन डेवलप करने में सारा जोर लगा हुआ है, इसकी वैक्सीनेशन का शुरू भी किया है, ह्यूमन ट्रायल शुरू कर दी है. तो लेट कंट्रीब्यूट करें वर्ल्ड. तो एक सिंपल एक देश ही सब कह सकते हैं, एक दूसरे के लिए आप कंट्रीब्यूट करें, अच्छे के लिए कंट्रीब्यूट करें, और थिक रिलेशंस हो, डेमोक्रेसी तकड़ी हो, स्ट्रांग हो, आम आदमी की बात सुनी जाए, इसके लिए हम काम करना चाहिए. थैंक यू, बहुत अच्छा लगा आपको मिलकर. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much.
इंडिया तो बहुत अच्छा लगेगा आप लोगों को मिलकर.
Definitely जी.
दीपक जी, अभी आप नहीं थे तो आई वाज जस्ट सेइंग एक्चुअली इन माय ओपनिंग रिमार्क्स कि जैसे अभी मिनिस्टर ने बताया, see we also work on 2 international conferences. This one is a Canada India Inside Conference, and then last year we also started a Canada-India-USA trilateral conference, which we'll continue to do as an annual conference. So our next project, actually, which we are starting on Friday, 2 days from now, is specifically focusing on Punjab. It's a year-long campaign called Pyara Punjab. And I will reach out to both Deepak ji and Honorable Minister Parkash ji for your guidance, help, assistance. We'll be doing plenty of things, virtual, in-person events, short films, videos, interviews, coffee table books, and much more. So that's it
विपुल
from
जी जाने से पहले विपुल जी जस्ट एक लाइन जरूर मैं दोबारा कहना चाहूंगा मंत्री जी आप जो भी हैं आए हुए हैं they themselves are pride of our Canada also.
Yes.
Each individually is very successful. Vipul ji, thank you for putting the cream of the cream out here, and we cannot thank enough High Commissioner and the Consulate General. Like they are big connector. आज के दिन जो सबसे ज्यादा हमें support मिलता है, जो हम मान से कह सकते हैं कि they are doing an incredible job.
Yes.
So I just again, we are blessed that आपने best High Commissioner और best Consulate General probably हमारे लिए बचा के यहाँ भेजे हैं, so उसके लिए बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद.
बहुत मैटर ऑफ प्लेयर हमारे आप इतनी तारीफ कर रहे हैं हमारे हाई कमिश्नर साहब की, तो अच्छा लग रहा है. आप लोग इससे सेटिस्फाइड हैं, हम लोग कोई शिकायत नहीं है, आप लोग इसकी हेल्प करते हैं, सभी को हेल्प करते हो. इट्स वेरी गुड.
Thank you, sir. Indeed fortunate, उनका काफी regular हमें guidance मिलता है and always approachable, always available. So we are very, very lucky to have both of them, Apurva ji and Ajay ji, and also the Deputy High Commissioner Anshuman ji, all of them. They are very, very helpful to us. So anyone else maybe want to just have a quick word? Sandeep ji, maybe Mr. Agnew, before the minister can go.
Thanks, Vipul. Thanks, Om Prakash ji. Very nice listening to you. And there are a lot of areas where I think Punjab as a province is working very closely with us in Canada. And we expect a lot of collaboration, and with your guidance, your leadership, I think we'll achieve new milestones in the Punjab and Canada corridor. Thank you very much.
Sir, Punjab में कुछ कर सके आपके साथ तो बहुत अच्छा लगेगा हमें भी.
Bilkul sir, so Somji, I also come from Haryana Punjab border. I belong to Ambala. So Punjab is very close to our heart, and my extended family is in Patiala and
बहुत बढ़िया सर, आपके नाम, आप लोगों का नाम इधर भी इतना ही मशहूर होना चाहिए कि कनाडा में रहते हैं, इनके ओरिजिन इंडिया में है, मवाला से है, पंजाब से है, पंजाब में कुछ कर सको. तो पंजाब इस ओपन प्लेस बहुत कुछ करना चाहता है. बड़े लोग, बहादुर लोग भी हैं, एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप भी है, जहाँ अवेलेबिलिटी है. बहुत सिस्टम चेंज हुआ है, ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस बहुत अच्छा सिस्टम है. जो इन्वेस्ट इंडिया हमारे पास जो काम करती है, they can help you any you want to invest in India. तो बहुत अच्छी opportunities हैं. Let us work together. जो कुछ कर सकते हैं.
Sure, sir. Thank you very much.
Mr. David Agnew, if you want to have a quick word with the minister.
Yeah, just very, very briefly, Minister, an honor to share the screen with you, and just want to say, of course, that one of the strongest relationships that India and Canada have is through education, and of course, there has been some disruption because of the pandemic in those relationships, but we're looking forward to renewing those relationships, continuing those relationships when of course we're physically able. But even in this online world, we continue to educate many students from India, and some even who have managed to get here, which is superb. But I just want to echo the words of our esteemed MPP, Mr. Anand, and say that the Government of India is superbly represented in this country through the High Commissioner and Consul General, both of whom we work with very closely. They're amazing allies in building an even stronger relationship between our two great countries. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Nice to talk to you. We always look forward to Canada as a very dependable ally, and eager to work together for the welfare of the world. Everybody, thank you.
Thank you. Sir, I just wanted to add my voice to this. Thank you, Minister Saab Prakash ji. Thank you very much for taking the time to be part of this conversation. Thank you, Vipul ji, for convincing our minister to be part of this conversation. And, my takeaway from this is that this is emphasizing the special connection that Punjab has with Canada. Sir, I can tell you that this diaspora here of 1.6 million, many of them of Punjab origin, they are now the drivers of the new Canada. They are in politics, they're in business, they're in academia, and it's a wonderful, strong relationship which we should nurture. And thank you very much for taking the time and encouraging us today.
Thanks. Thank you very much. We are proud that Indian people are playing a greater role in every field, in economic field and political field also. It gives us satisfaction, and we are proud of Indians living in Canada. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you for taking the time today, sir, and formally launching the conference for us. As I mentioned, we'll reach out to you again soon for the Pyara Punjab campaign and for taking this dialogue forward. Let me now go to our second speaker today, who will deliver a thank you note and his valuable insights on Canada-India relations. His Excellency Mr. Ajay Bisaria is the High Commissioner of India to Canada since March 1 to 2020. He has a bachelor's degree in economics, a master's degree in business administration from IIM Kolkata, and a master's degree in public policy from Princeton University, US. Mr. Bisaria worked as a Soviet internal affairs specialist at the Indian Embassy in Moscow from 1988 to 1991. He served as Under Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs on the East Europe desk from 91 to 92. He then moved to the Ministry of Commerce from 92 to 95. From 95 to 99, he was posted as first secretary in the Indian Embassy in Berlin, Germany. Sri Ajay Bisaria ji was appointed private secretary to Prime Minister of India, Atal Bihari Vajpayee from 99 to 2004. I was fortunate actually, I consider myself very fortunate to have Mr. Vajpayee a few times actually, before he became the Prime Minister. And lucky to have met Prime Minister Govt, Manmohan Singh ji as well. And of course, Prime Minister Modi a few times. So from 2004 to 2008, High Commissioner Bisaria was posted to the World Bank in Washington, D.C. as advisor to the Executive Director for South Asia. From 2009 to 2014, Mr. Bisaria was in Delhi, serving as Joint Secretary Eurasia in the Ministry of External Affairs. High Commissioner Bisaria has been India's ambassador to Poland and India's High Commissioner to Pakistan. And he speaks Hindi, English, and Russian, has a working knowledge of German, Polish, and Urdu, and has a deep interest in yoga and plays golf. Please welcome the High Commissioner of India to Canada, Sri Ajay Bisaria ji.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vipul Jani ji, for that very generous introduction. And thank you for taking this initiative, for organizing this conference and all the initiatives you've been taking in bringing together the dignitaries from India with dignitaries from Canada and emphasizing the strength of the India-Canada relationship and also its potential. So thank you for all that you're doing. Honorable Minister Som Prakash ji, Honorable Deepak Anand ji, if he's still there, and all the dignitaries who are going to join us, that means Honorable Mr. Erin O'Toole, Leader of Opposition, Mr. Fedeli, Mr. David Agnew, who's already here, Mr. Ranj Pillai. So it's great to have such a distinguished gathering, even in a conference where people are coming and going, but that's the nature of this digital medium. It gives us so much flexibility. So thank you for putting this together. I thought in my remarks, I will not repeat what the Honorable Minister has already said, which is an outline of the India-Canada economic partnership and all its potentials. But I will just mention 3 or 4 issues of importance that came up during that conversation, which I think are relevant to us today. The first, I think, this exchange between Deepak Anandji and our Honorable Minister, it emphasized, it even got into Punjabi, which means that the importance of Punjab in this relationship, and not just in the diaspora element, but even in the economic partnership. I had gone to Punjab and visited both Chandigarh, Amritsar, and Mohali, and seen the new Punjab and its dynamism. The Invest Punjab, for instance, is a very dynamic new entity which is working with professionals on getting investment into Punjab. And Vipulji, your idea of Pyara Punjab is excellent, because this, when you bring the hearts together, the business also follows. And I think this is the new Punjab which people in Canada must understand, and those who have not visited must visit, because it's very different from the Punjab you saw 10, 20 years ago. It's even different from the Punjab you would have seen 3 years ago, because it's a constantly changing Punjab, and a constantly improving one. So that is one part of the diaspora story. We have now about 1.6 million diaspora in Canada, in leadership positions, in politics, business, in academia. Many of them are represented today, but also in the cultural sphere and in various other spheres. And this is a special group that helps us in driving forward the India-Canada partnership. We feel the India-Canada partnership is poised in the economic sense at a very good space, because these are two G20 economies, $2 trillion for Canada, $3 trillion for India. And there is enough going in terms of trade, investment, what the minister talked about technology exchanges, for us to be talking to each other. But what the diaspora adds is a special X factor in the relationship, which brings us even closer together because of the people-to-people impetus to this relationship. I think the other point that the minister emphasized is that we are natural partners. This is something that we have said. Our president formally said it on Canada Day. But we are natural partners because we are both believers in democracy, in rule of law, in the diversity of our peoples, in respecting the integrity of globalization and multilateralism. And we are both countries which have so much in common and are a force for good in the world. And an example of this is that our two prime ministers, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Trudeau, have spoken to each other through the crisis. They have spoken of global problems. They have spoken of pharmaceuticals. They have spoken of vaccines. And today, India is not just the pharmacy of the world, and the pharmacy for Canada. We're also the vaccine producer of the world and the vaccine producer for this pandemic. Because it doesn't matter where the vaccine is finally discovered and approved, whether it is in Canada or the US or the UK or Russia, the eventual production and scaling up of this vaccine to produce the billions of doses we would need will be done in India. So India will stand as a reliable supply chain of pharmaceuticals and also of vaccines. You asked about the CEPA and FIPA, the two agreements. These are also in conversation. Our Minister Piyush Goel has been in touch with Minister Mary Ng at least 5 or 6 times during this pandemic. We have multiple conversations, and as Minister Som Prakash mentioned in his remarks, we have even proposed an early harvest agreement, which means a limited agreement, because we have been in discussion for the last 10 years on an ambitious CEPA, which is an economic partnership agreement. But we say that let us now get the low-hanging fruit, see what we agree on, and go on a more limited kind of agreement. And that is what the conversation is happening regularly these days. Also on the FIPA, we are, which is an even lower hanging fruit, the investment promotion agreement. We have only 3 or 4 areas of disagreement, and we are coming closer and closer to resolving this issue, and we continue to be in conversation. So I think both these framework agreements will be in discussion and will take us forward. And the last point I'll make is that you're going to hear soon from Invest India the enormous India opportunity that exists because of the reforms. And what India has done is use the crisis as an opportunity, never waste a good crisis. That is how the saying goes. So what we are planning to do is with the fiscal and economic monetary stimulus, we have added deep-seated economic reforms in almost every sector. And this ranges from land, labor, liquidity, laws, to agriculture, to education, to in every sector. This government has tried to push in more reforms in the last 6 months. And the idea is that when we emerge from this crisis, we do it in an accelerated way. And what are being called our second generation reforms are now ready. So I'm going to stop right here so that I give our Invest India and Vivek an opportunity to give you the details of how exactly we are going about this economic reform program. Thank you.
Thank you for the thoughtful remarks, High Commissioner Bisaria ji. Before I go to Invest India, since the minister is with us, Prashant bhai, if you want to have a quick word with the minister.
That's fine, Vipul bhai. Thank you.
Okay, so we will now move to a presentation by Invest India, the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of India. Invest India acts as the first point of reference for investors in India. Set up in 2009, Invest India is a non-profit venture under the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. During the presentation today is Mr. Vivek Abram, Vice President and Co-Head, Global Investor Outreach for Invest India. Vivek has a postgraduate diploma in Management and Finance from IIM Bengaluru and a Bachelor of Engineering and Computer Engineering from Delhi College of Engineering. Over to you, Vivek.
Thank you, Vipulji. It's a privilege to be here and to be speaking to such an august audience. Today, I have a fairly detailed presentation, like how the High Commissioner had mentioned, on what India has done in the recent past and how investors are viewing India in the recent months that has just gone by. And I hope to convince the unconvinced on this webinar that India is one of the destinations that you should be really looking at. So in the past few years, I would say we had talked a lot about India's potential, India's opportunities. But by and far, if you look at any sector of the economy today, we have become a world leader. Definitely on the technology front, we've become #1. We've become the #1 data consumer, which was a very surprising and unprecedented jump for us from rank 112. We are one of the leading nations in pharma and consumer goods. And I've got a few more data points here, and you will see that there is absolutely no sector of the economy where we have actually become a world leader. Either we've become a world leader in producing steel, or we've become a world leader in consuming energy. It just varies. But the important point to note, and the insight that everyone should take away from this slide, is that even though we have reached a new height and we have attained pole position on a lot of these sectors, there is still a long, long way to grow. And I will tell you in the next few slides that why we still have that long, long way to go. We have just done a very preliminary analysis of the 25 Make in India sectors that we had identified 5 years ago. And we still believe that each of these sectors have a billion-dollar opportunity. And in a few sectors, we are very sure that there is a trillion-dollar opportunity. And by 2025, we expect that all of these sectors combined will offer a $5 trillion opportunity for all of us that are going to participate in this story. Infrastructure has had a special focus in the last few months and years. In fact, we have progressed tremendously on all elements of the infrastructure, be it road, energy, airports, or digital infrastructure or railways. In fact, energy has been one of our key successes. Back in 2016, when we had the ambition to become a global leader in renewable energy, we had merely 3,000 megawatts, that is 3 gigawatts of solar. And we announced to the world that we will become a world leader in solar. In that year, in the year 12 months after that announcement, we added another 3,000 megawatts. So we've added a lifetime of solar capacity in just 1 year. And today we're sitting pretty at 20 gigawatts. And we are just going to zoom ahead and reach 175 gigawatts in renewable energy very soon. In fact, we were supposed to reach that target in 2025. And because of our pace, we've actually extended that target to 225 gigawatts by 2025. Very recently, we have announced the National Infrastructure Pipeline, which is an integrated approach to monitor and promote or key infrastructure projects that are there in the country. As you can see at the bottom half of the slide, the breakup of this infrastructure projects across various sectors, and each of these projects put together will offer a $1.4 trillion in investment opportunity. If we look at how investors and specifically financial investors can participate in the economy, we have made that easier as well. We have very actively and aggressively started monetizing stable existing operational assets. A lot of Canadian pension funds have taken advantage of that. In fact, the Canadian pension funds and financial investors are the largest foreign owners of Indian roads as of today. We've also opened up a window for REITs and InvITs. Again, global financial investors are making use of this opportunity and listing their assets in Indian capital markets and realizing the returns. According to, if you refer back to our finance minister's remarks and presentations a few months ago, the Atma Nirbhar Bharat presentations, we had made a commitment to get out of business that private sector should rightfully be in. And we have identified some of these marquee government companies that should get more private sector investment. And we have set ourselves a disinvestment target of $28 billion by the end of this year. We've also set up a sovereign wealth fund structure where we have started collaborating with sovereign wealth funds and other large financial investors globally. And we have several vehicles through which we've been able to expand and magnify investment coming in from abroad through windows like the India Infrastructure Finance Company and the REITs that have been listed by the government. As you can see, in the last few years, we've really accelerated our growth. If you extend our economic history back to the years of our independence, 1947, you'll see that it took us 63 years to achieve our first trillion in GDP. The next trillion came in 7 years. And in only 3 years, we've come within touching distance of $3 trillion. And we aim to reach $5 trillion by 2025 and $10 trillion in the next 1.5 decades after that. Crucially, essentially, we're going to be adding $7 trillion to the global economy in the next 10 to 15 years. So if you don't take away anything else, if you take away one thing, this is that one thing, that you have an opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity to be part of the $7 trillion story in the next 15 years. And investors are not sitting idle. In fact, we have doubled our FDI in the last few years from 2014 to 2020. And last year, if you look at my next slide, we received a record of $74 billion in FDI, which was a 16% growth over the previous year's FDI. At the same time, global FDI came down by 1%. This typically means, this really means, essentially means that global investors are now recognizing India and relocating or reinvesting their assets, existing assets into India, where they will get higher return and better growth opportunities. This is a very interesting survey. Bloomberg commissioned a couple of surveys in 2017 and 2018, where they had asked 900 global CEOs to rate India versus six of its competitors. And they had asked them to rate India and these 6 competitors across key decision-making factors when they're looking at investments. And these decision-making factors are given on the slide in front of you. And you can very clearly see that India rated as number 1 in most of these decision factors and pretty high on the others. What we heard informally from Bloomberg was that every CEO had a view, had a strategy, had a vision for India. And a few of the CEOs even said that if they didn't have a view or vision or strategy for India, they risked becoming irrelevant. We have really worked hard in the last 7 years to ensure that we turn our entire system, which was supposed to be full of red tape, into a red carpet for investors. And this has really shown us the results, given us results. Over the last 5 years, we've jumped 79 places in the ease of doing business rankings. And this is something that is unprecedented. For a country of India's size, this is completely unheard of having such significant jumps year after year, where we've demonstrated and shown commitment to doing better business. And it's not just ease of doing business. We've also seen our innovation index go up, our logistics performance index go up. And everyone across the board, including the World Bank CEO right now, has said that this is quite a rarity. And this is not happened magically. Each and every element of our corporate process in India, our business process in India, has been re-examined, re-engineered, and made faster, more efficient, and cheaper. If you look at from the point when you start a company to the point you dissolve a company, and the policy effects afterwards and how you go about doing it, we have actually looked at each and every part of the story and tried to improve that. I'll go into each one of this in slight detail. It is now possible to start a business in India in one day, sitting at home anywhere in the world. We have combined all of our forms into one form, and you can essentially apply for all of the registrations and licenses in that one single form in one day. We have also eliminated fees, and we've made it easier for smaller businesses to come online as soon as possible. We have eliminated regulation and bureaucracy around building permits and infrastructure building, so that investors can actually participate much easily and quicker. The next aspect of a business is essentially locating land. And this has been a constant feedback that we've received from investors, that getting land in India could be difficult, could be challenging. And in a very typical Indian fashion, what we have done is we've taken the technology in a very, very aggressive manner. We have started pooling our industrial land across the country on a publicly available GIS system. You can actually access it right now. We have onboarded 6 of the largest states, and we are in the pilot phase right now, where you can go there and not only see the land availability, but you can actually see what is the raw material availability, what is the infrastructure nearby, how many schools are nearby, and so on and so forth. Any number of decision factors that you need to make that decision for investment, you will be able to see on that map. And by the end of this year, we are working towards ensuring that you'll be able to book that plot online itself. So you can essentially start a company and book a piece of land sitting at home. Another big piece of impact that we have introduced in our country is our labor reforms. We used to have 44 labor laws, which we have now subsumed into 4 codes on wages, industrial relations, occupational safety, and social security. We have also started encouraging states to make improvements in their labor laws, and the states are seeing this really improve the efficiency and returns on investment. I'll just show you this one quick slide on how it impacts the investor. For the company, you essentially have to look at just one registration, one license, and one return, as compared to the multiple and myriad licenses and registrations that you had to run around in different offices. Compliance costs have come down, inspections have come down, and it is only being taken on a risk-based basis, risk-based metrics. It's almost all electronics, and we've started encouraging fixed-term employment for all sectors without term or tenure, so that industries and companies can really flexibly hire talent and keep them for the long term. We've also focused on logistics. Logistics has been an expensive part in our country, but we have steadily improved every aspect of logistics, be it ports, be it roads, air cargo, or rail. We have seen a tremendous impact to all of these. Not only this, we've also started building multimodal, that is multiple points of transport converging in one point. We've started building those logistics parks across the country so that investors and companies or manufacturing can quickly transport from one mode of transport, transfer from one mode of transport to another in these multimodal logistics parks. This basically reduces your capital expenditure, reduces your warehousing and storage costs, and essentially makes it cheaper to manufacture in India. I will go into GST in greater detail later on, but this has been a unprecedented transformation as well, where we have removed the state barriers and rationalized supply chains across the country. And almost everything is now electronic or mobile phone based, so that the dwell times and the transit times have become significantly cheaper. Anybody who has been trading or operating in the logistics sector in India did know that our ports turnaround time were quite high. We did have a crunching capacity some time back, but we have worked really hard to bring it down to global standards. In fact, it's much better than a lot of our competitors and neighbors, and we are working on increasing that capacity more. If you look at the map on the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see some of the more upcoming ports, which will ensure that all of these capacities will be relieved very soon. On the bottom half of the slide, you'll see a commentary about a railroad network. We are the densest railroad network in the world, but we are not satisfied with that. We want to make it more efficient for our infrastructure, for our goods to be transported across the country. GST has been one of the most transformational reforms of our country. We had more than 17 indirect taxes, more cesses and other charges that came on any good that would come across that would be manufactured in the country. In fact, it used to be a situation that if you manufactured a product in Delhi, it would be taxed differently as compared to manufacturing that product in Maharashtra. And transporting it from one state to another was another hassle. And we have combined that into exactly one tax. So it doesn't matter where you manufacture or where you store it or where you produce it, it is all subject to one tax. And more importantly, just one assessing officer and one form that you need to fill out. And we have taken the opportunity to make it all digital. So essentially, if you have the records uploaded, all of your returns get generated automatically. And a lot of the compliance burden on companies has reduced. In fact, a lot of CAs around the time of GST implementation had complained that a lot of the business would go because of the system. And we have also reformed our tax regime. Not only have we made our taxes, our tax system, one of the most competitive in the world. If you start a new manufacturing entity in India till 2021, you will essentially be subject to 15% corporate tax. And if you are already existing in the country, you will be subject to 22% corporate tax. And not only that, we have introduced a taxpayers charter where it is where we have very clearly enshrined the taxpayers' rights, so that working with government or working with the tax authorities is more defined, it's clearer, and you have that more trust in the equation, which was missing apparently earlier. On the trade front, again, we have reformed the entire process. We have, wherever possible, we have removed all the paper-based processes. In fact, if you know port operators or transport operators across the country, you know that the days of having sheaves of invoices and papers and bills, all of that is gone. Every driver essentially carries a smartphone with QR codes to grant them access to different areas and across boundaries. And essentially, it's all online. So you don't really need to worry about what's happening on the ground. And it doesn't matter who you know or what you've done. As long as you're following the law, you will be given the same access and service. This was an important part. Insolvency was an important part of the process which we have reformed. We have introduced the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India, which essentially is curating the entire insolvency process, along with dedicated courts, judicial process to run along in parallel. We've got nearly 5,000 cases since inception in 2016, and two metrics which essentially show how this has improved. We have improved recovery rates from 27 pence on the dollar to 27 cents on the dollar to 72 cents on the dollar, so almost tripled it. And we've also reduced the time taken to resolve some of these situations. So investors who come into the country and worry about not being able to exit, that worry has also been taken care of. This is just an analysis of the kind of cases that have been filed and how they are divided across sector. Post-COVID, we had received a lot of industry feedback, and we saw this as an opportunity not just to revive the economy, but also position India into a leadership position across different sectors where we've been working really hard. In fact, just to give you a report, a few months ago, we were very, very positive on where we were in terms of COVID. A lot of the metrics in terms of agriculture or auto sales, which was in the doldrums pre-COVID, had almost recovered, showing that the Indian economy is well on its way to recovery. We essentially worked on two strands for the post-COVID plan. The first strand was demand stimulus. So there was a wholesale reduction in demand across the world, across sectors. There was absolutely no sector which was not touched. In fact, there were several companies who had called us, asking us about the stimulus and given us feedback on the stimulus, because they had seen almost 90% reduction in revenues, not just bottom lines, but revenues, and was struggling to keep afloat in some of these situations. This unparalleled stimulus package of $265 billion was a timely intervention. And a lot of that is now filtering into the economy and boosting the demand. But at the same time, we are also taking this opportunity to push in a lot of the reduction in compliance burden that was pending. So we are working on a truly single window for investment clearance that will be in sync with all of the states, a lot of the compliance requirements under Companies Acts were reduced so that people could comply with the rules and regulations, or remain in compliance with the rules and regulations through this difficult period. We also paid special attention to the bottom of the pyramid, and essentially this was a demand stimulus demand stimulus package that we had introduced into the system, and this is now filtering into further demand for companies and industries that we are seeing today. But most importantly, we had also focused on repair of supply chains, which is the second strand of the package post-COVID. We had analyzed strategic sectors of the economy where we felt we had significant strengths and advantage, not only in terms of demand, but also in terms of natural advantage in terms of talent or in raw materials. We looked at each of these sectors and we identified specific areas in all of these sectors where we could attract investors globally. And we have designed really tailor-made incentive packages, which is being very well received by our global investor community, who are applying in these, or applying in the dozens of, in the dozens. We've also started working on the emerging sectors like agriculture, defense, and mining. We very recently announced a opening up of the defense sector, where we've opened it up from 49% to 74%, which is a huge change in mindset of how we should be looking at the defense sector. At the same time, we've also seen the different states of India competing with not only with each other, but also global locations to attract investment. There are some states that are coming out with extensive plug and play model. You've got Gujarat looking at a completely new way of looking at incentives. You've got Telangana that has announced very widely that they will meet or beat any incentive package that investor brings globally to Telangana. At the same time, some of these states are also going very aggressive on the compliance front and are penalizing officers who are delaying permissions to investors. So we want to really put our best foot forward, and at the end of the day, the investor is getting a really good deal. To top it all, we've put together a standing group of senior secretaries to provide continuous high-level attention on all matters related to investments. Any interventions that are required on investments or related policies are being cleared in record time. We are setting up an investment clearance cell that will handhold any investor that is going through the system on all processes that require clearances. Each ministry has a dedicated team from Invest India and the ministry itself to focus on these conversations to ensure that all of these conversations don't get lost in the bureaucracy. We have an extremely great partnership with Canada. These are official figures. I'm sure the real figures, the actual figures on the ground will be much, much more. But essentially, you can see that the scale of our relationship is huge. And like I said before, as compared to our opportunity, this is not at all anywhere near close to the potential, but we continue to grow significantly day by day. Again, these are official figures. Of course, the actual figures are many times more than this. And if you look at the Canadian pension funds at the figure below, it's a huge multiple of the official figures. And the relationship is fairly diverse. You can see that the investments go from financial services sector to construction to energy and IT. And we're continuing to add sectors every single day. In fact, we had seen a report recently where we had seen Canada's investments into India jump sharply in the last few years. and the diversity in which was staggering. It was not a single dimensional investment. It was not just in infrastructure or in financial services as one would expect, but it was across the spectrum, and all leading companies of Canada had an India exposure. These are some of the names that we are working with, and definitely would like to increase this list by the time we meet next. We've got more than 153 inquiries that are coming from Canada, of which we are working with more than 12 companies right now, actively in promoting their investments. And we've got a $1.5 billion pipeline currently that we're working on with them. Compared to what the official figure of Canadian investments in India, it's a huge figure. So we look forward to increasing this pipeline. Invest India is a dedicated agency within the Government of India for promoting foreign investments. We are a young agency, not only by corporate age, we are only about 5 or 6 years old, but we also have a very young team who are really passionate and really motivated to work with our investors. In fact, we've been awarded more than 7 times over the last few years. And we're really proud of the work that we do for all of you. With this, I thank you for your time.
Next in 10 minutes,
and I request people to take it back.
Just call to make sure. No, they have.
Thank you, Vipul.
Sure.
Thank you, Vivek. That was very impressive and very elaborate. So,
okay, so
thank you, Deepak ji.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. I have already asked Mr.
Yes,
for
we'll definitely.
the deck. We probably can get it next week.
Okay.
As Vipul is busy on the phone, so I can take care of this.
That's fine. Actually, I was just talking to our next speaker, Honorable Ranj Pillai, the Deputy Premier, actually. So since he hasn't logged in, and he is the next speaker, so I thought let me give him a quick call to see where is he. And he said, I'm just done with my previous meeting, and I'm now going to the next, which is our conference. So he'll join us in the next 5-10 minutes. And in the meantime, yes, we can have a discussion. And by the way, that was a fantastic presentation, Vivek ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be happy to follow up on this and contribute
Please.
in whatever way we can. So continue, Deepak ji, until Mr. Pillai is here. We can have informal conversation.
Thank you so much, Vivek. So it was really impressive to see, and I see you're competing with the East Asia and you're competing with the Latin countries as well. They're about 19%.
That's right.
So it's not that India is the only place to go, but India should be, could be, and would be the best place to go, hopefully with your efforts. I always believed in two-way working. I mean, I always believe most of the street are two-way street, not one-way. One-ways are only seen in the downtown and they're very small. So
you can't park anything there. Forget about investments.
Yeah. So what I want to talk about is that I want to present to you Ontario, more than Canada. I want to present it to Ontario because Ontario is the 38% of our population, 42% of the GDP. And within Ontario, we call GTA, which is a Greater Toronto Area. And we just take Greater Toronto Area, that's about 50% of the population of Ontario. So you can imagine, just by two hours drive in and around, you can have the 1/5 of the economy right here of Canada. So what is special about GTA is that, we talk about global village. We talk about, everybody, the world is flat, and those kind of things. So when we really look at Toronto, we have 165 nationalities. We have 202 languages spoken right here in Toronto area. And what I wanted to let you know through you to your counterparts in India. For an example, Rajesh Exports in Bangalore. They're $1 billion company. They manufacture jewelry. But if they want to expand, what they could do is they can come to Toronto. Why? Because through Toronto, they will have access to all the consulate generals, all the high commissioners of the world. and they can expand to those countries, build that wealth through Ontario, through Toronto, and invest that back into India. So if you're looking for a foreign direct investment, it's not just that people from all across the world has to come and invest in India. Indian companies can come here in Ontario. We will support them. We will build them. They make the wealth, and they take the wealth and go back and invest into the India sector as well. So this is something which I wanted to propose to you through Vipulji, of course. Our connector is Vipulji, and this is something we will be happy to do it. I mean, we can give you a list of companies like Baiju, for an example, a great success story at your place. If they want to build and have that platform to be used in China, they want to go into the Brazil, what they can do is they don't really need to physically go to China. They don't really physically need to go to Brazil. Come to Toronto. We have professional translator. We have professional teachers who speak that language. We will build that platform in those languages right here. And through their consulate general, through their chamber of commerce, we can sell it to those countries. So those are the areas what I would take you from here. Of course, we will advocate for investing in India. We will advocate for bringing more wealth for you. But another way of building that wealth would be bring those big companies here. Another example is your Tata, TCS. We have 31 million people living out of India. And we have 500 million people in India of, middle class. Whatever you call that high net worth people of 1 to 2%, which is again the 10, 15 million people. So having the food processed in University of Goel Fair, where we have a fresh water, fresh air, plenty of land and good food. We process that food, we package that food for the Indian company, and we send it across the world, build that wealth, and take that money back to India. So these are some of the examples I think we should look at it as well. Thank you, Vipulji.
If I have time, I'll just respond to that in 1 minute. I should have included in my presentation, but we already have an MOU signed up with Invest Canada. So we do have a two-way relationship, and we do actively work with the High Commission here in Delhi to, in case there are any Indian companies, we do flag them to the High Commission here in Delhi. And we also have recently signed an MOU with the Toronto Business Development Corporation. And this is with our Startup India initiative, where we want to promote both Indian startups in Canada and Canadian startups in India. So, really, I truly believe that, and we are actively working on that. So thank you for that.
Pleasure is mine. And again, through Vipulji, if we can do anything, we are already here. We'll be happy to partner. We will be happy to work with you and those companies, where we can build that wealth and bring more prosperity to both the countries. Thank you, Vipulji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Deepak Bhai knows how to promote Ontario, so that is fantastic. Invest India followed right away, by Invest Ontario. And so happy to be connected to both. That's why we are called Indo-Canadians. We have got 1 foot here, 1 foot there, and happy to promote both. So I'm not sure if High Commissioner Bisaria ji is here, still with us. Sir, you want to say something on Invest India, the presentation that we just saw?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Vivek. I think that's an excellent presentation, and I would strongly recommend, as requested by some of our colleagues, that you share this deck around. Absolutely. Because this is the latest. It encapsulates the second generation reforms, and it gives a context, particularly to Canada. And we've been making these kind of pitches with both the investment firms and pension funds, but also with the manufacturing firms. So we have a great deal of interest in Canada. So all of you, please feel free to share this, because many Absolutely. Companies are showing great deal of interest in India. And this presentation is something that will, give them a lot of fodder for thought.
It will be with you, sir, shortly.
Okay,
Great.
so I believe Deputy Premier Pillai is just logging in. Hello, Kim.
Good morning. He'll be
Hey Kim, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. He'll be joining us in just one moment.
Yes, I just had a quick word with him. I can understand, from one meeting to the next. That's our
right.
present day life,
That's
with,
right.
With webinars now, there is no excuse. I mean, everybody expects you to be there,
I understand. Yeah.
All right, so we are just about ready. Vivek will follow up with further follow-up pieces in the newspaper also, like we did last month,
Yes.
the Canada-India Inside publication. So please feel free to keep in touch with us. We'll be happy to promote. And
Thank
Deepak ji, Invest Ontario also will be happy to promote that as well.
Thank you. Very generous of you.
So for the participants, I mean, anyone can ask questions in the chat. We'll try to incorporate as and when we can. If you have any questions that you want to ask anyone, please feel free to write in the chat box. So the audio is fine, right? So far, everybody can hear, everybody well?
Yes, Vipul, I think audio is very good.
Okay. Facebook Live has been giving some issues actually. I had to log in 3-4 times. So I don't know what is happening there. But in any case, this whole episode will be covered in the paper also. And we'll post it as a YouTube video on both our websites and then also on other social media. So that will all be posted over the weekend, and I'll be happy to share them with you. Sandeep bhai, you are still there?
Yeah, Vipul, I'm here. Yes.
Okay, sure. So if you want to come in, I mean, we have got a couple of minutes, I guess, until Deputy Premier joins us. Vivek is here if you want to have a quick word on the presentation that you just saw.
No, yeah, very good, Vivek. Actually,
still
Vivek,
here.
incidentally, is my junior from DC as well as from IIM Bangalore. So, Vivek, I'll chat with you separately.
Of course, sir.
I guess we can do
Always
a
good to
separate
meet
webinar for people from IIM Bangalore. There's more than one here today, from IIM Bangalore.
This is excellent. Actually, these investment agencies, since they have younger ideas and a very different kind of professionals working for them, so I think they do a better job in terms of promoting India as well as Canada. I think Canada also is very professional in terms of how they promote provincial as well as federal government investment. Same, I think India has done very well. So compliments to you, Vivek, and the entire team at Invest India.
Thank you, sir.
I think Ranj is here.
Yes. So we have Mr. Ranj Pillai. So welcome, sir. Sorry to rush you from one meeting to the next.
Oh no. As Deepak would know, that Deepak, there's not normally any traffic jams in Whitehorse in the morning. I just had the full one of all 40 vehicles that I got behind. I apologize.
All right, no problem. So let me bring you straight in.
Sure.
This brings us to we have actually, before you, we have heard from Minister Parkash, the Minister of State for Commerce and Industry. The High Commissioner of India, His Excellency Ajay Bisaria is with us. The Consul General of India, Apurva Srivastava, is also here. We have just heard a presentation from Mr. Vivek Abraham from Invest India. MPP Deepak Anand also just pitched in. We heard from Sandeep Goel, ICICI Bank, and Mr. David Agnew a little bit from Seneca College. So this now brings us to the fourth speaker for today. Honorable Ranj Pillai is the Deputy Premier of Yukon. He's also the Minister responsible for energy, Mines and Resources, Minister of Economic Development, Minister responsible for Yukon Development Corporation and Yukon Energy Corporation as well. First elected as an MLA in 2016. Mr. Pillai has roots in Kerala and is looking forward to visiting India soon. Welcome to the Canada-India Insight Virtual Conference, Honorable Mr. Pillai. Over to you.
Thank you so much. What a significant group of people to be able to come and speak with. I truly appreciate it. So good morning to everyone. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm joining you virtually to this conference today, and as something that we do in honor here in the Yukon. I'm on the traditional territory of the Kwalin First Nation and the Tonquachin Council, which are the two First Nations that originate in this area where the city of Whitehorse is. Thanks to the Impact Media and Event Corporation and the Canada-India-US Development Forum for organizing this event. I also want to thank Vipul, Johnny, and Canada India Insight for inviting me to speak today. I'm always happy to discuss new ways to expand the relationship between Canada, specifically Yukon, and India. The Yukon is a place with great opportunity. Prior to the pandemic, Yukon's economy was in the midst of a robust expansion. Our economy is diversifying and built on a strong foundation with several economic indicators showing growth, including employment, income, population, and retail sales. The following historic lows of 2.3% in the summer of 2018. So in 2018, we were, that was our historic low of unemployment. In 2019, we had the lowest rate in the country of about 3.6%. Yukon's unemployment rate remains one of the lowest in the country, even post-pen or in the midst of between wave 1 and wave 2, and is pushing up household incomes and drawing newcomers to the territory. Consumer spending and retail sales were a record $865 million in 2019. Real GDP grew about 2.6% in 2018 and is projected to grow 3.3% in 2019 when we see final numbers, and further growth through 2023. And I'm feeling pretty good about where we are on some of the trends. You know, we think that even with the pandemic in place, we're going to be in a positive area walking into the end of 2020. Our population has grown for 16 consecutive years and has reached over just over 42,000. So you can imagine we have areas in the Yukon that are, we have one regional planning area that is an area where we can do resource development as well. It's a protected area. That area alone, that's really has minimal population, is about the size of Scotland. So you can kind of get a sense, you know, we have a very low population, but in a very expansive area. On the mining and resource development front, high mineral prices and record high gold prices affirm that mining will continue to be a bright spot in our economy. And it's really shored us up over the spring and fall, or sorry, the spring and summer, seeing those record high gold prices. And so as we saw constriction in the overall economy, we were still seeing very significant investment and money, the money markets working to drive some of that further exploration. Yukon remains one of the best jurisdictions in the world for this type of development. Even as markets have slowed, Yukon's industry and operating mines have remained stable. The territory hosts 2 hard rock mines, looking at a third projected to come online, which will be the only primary silver mine in Canada, which will be in place in about 60 days. Each produces different commodities, providing a diversity of our annual resource production. Victoria Eagle Gold project began commercial production in 2020, and after pouring its first gold in 2019. This production is a major driver, of course, of our GDP in Yukon's forecast period. We have also Minto Mine, which we started production just about a year ago, and that is a copper, primary copper mine, and then Alexico Resource Corporation, which is the silver mine that I spoke about. We also, some of the bigger mining companies around the world, Newmont, globally one of the, if not the biggest, always there with Barrick, have another project that they're developing right now, the Coffee Gold Mine. And it's just gone through the environmental assessment process, and now it's just going through final regulatory pieces, or just about to finish, or the EA process. And that's projected to boost revenues by about another $1 billion in 2024. We also have an Australian team with a great track record backed by Barclays. They are moving as well on a project called Kutsikaya, and it's a world-class lead zinc project that's also gone through a regulatory process. So the government, of course, as well, plays a major role in trying to ensure that we have a strong exploration industry. So this year we put about $2.5 million just into small numbers, but they're small in a big case for a country, but in a small jurisdiction, we put that into to offset some of the early costs of risk capital in the development industry, and that usually levers another, $10 million. Switching gears, climate change and of course clean future. That's also falls under my responsibility. So as we move forward developing our mineral industry, we remain focused on fighting climate change. Our northern climate is warming 3 times faster than the rest of Canada, while carbon pollution continues growing around the world at an alarming rate. Our government understands this is one of the biggest challenges facing our time, and we want to do our part. So 2 weeks ago, we released Yukon's 10-year strategy for addressing climate change, energy, and the green economy, called Our Clean Future. It sets out our collective vision, goals, values, and objectives to address the climate change emergency. Yukon First Nations, transboundary Indigenous groups, and municipalities joined us in developing this strategy. We truly brought everybody together to understand perspective and help us build out this plan. So over the next 10 years, the government of Yukon, in partnership with the government of Canada, plans to invest $500 million in climate change and energy programs and initiatives. About $400 million of this will directly support economic development recovery by investing in local renewable energy, infrastructure and building projects, encouraging purchase of zero-emission vehicles, and supporting Yukon businesses and workers to develop new skills for a green economy. The plan is a roadmap to increasing our renewable electricity on our grid to 97% clean energy on average by 2030. Right now, we're at about 93%. It is an ambitious goal for reaching net zero emissions for the Yukon's entire economy by 2050. So we're now working with governments of all level on identifying investments in renewable energy projects so we can achieve these goals. Of note, I can say Indigenous groups in the Yukon since 2015 have built over or been involved in about 100 renewable energy projects, really significant. So at a grassroots level, we really see a big uptake, and then we work to offset capital costs and provide technical advice. But as you'll see, the trend through some of these notes is that when it comes to solar and wind, tremendous opportunity. And of course, when you think about India as well, from a trade perspective, they do things so well in that space. We were hoping to be there with the team in early 2021 to focus on putting together some supply chain, really focusing on renewable energy. So these initiatives enable the development of small-scale energy generation projects based on solar, wind, biomass, geothermal, and hydro technologies to power our homes and our businesses. Our government has already worked closely with project partners to advance a number of initiatives across our territory. We have a solar array in northern Yukon that's in place in a community called Old Crow. So for anybody who wants to have some fun, take a look at where that is on the map. It's just, it's very close to the Beaufort Sea, our northernmost community. Biomass district heating, really looking at biomass with ways to mitigate forest fire challenges by cutting that fiber and then using it in a holistic fashion to offset fossil development and wind farms as well here in Whitehorse. So we're also working to secure investment in our electricity system to address growing demands for clean energy and reduce carbon emissions. Once completed, 3 new electricity generation transmission projects will account for about 46% of our carbon emission targets by 2030. Our 10-year renewable electricity plan will see over 90% of Yukon's electricity needs coming from renewable electricity. So beyond that 500 million that I touched on, when we talk about opportunities for partnership, the projects that we're looking at with the Energy Corporation, which is also my responsibility, we're probably looking at about $900 million up to $1 billion with transmission. So you can see that for a very small population, the amount of money that we have to spend here over the next 10 years between the resource sector and improving our highways and our airports, which we didn't get into, but I can answer questions as we go through, and then the energy generation. There's some real significant opportunities for partnership and investment. So one of our more innovative pieces to work, and I think this is something we can share with many, is what we produce, our independent power production policy. which enables individual organizations to become independent power producers. We've watched what's happened across Canada on these policy pieces. Sometimes really the amounts of funds that were being paid to people were quite high, and that of course became quite a burden. So we've really structured that in a way that it's good for government, it's good for taxpayers, and it's good for our energy generation. I think what I want to do is I'm just going to touch on a few other things, and I think the best thing probably for me is because the Yukon probably it's not something that everybody's familiar with. I want to be able to answer some questions for you today, and maybe that's the best use of time. Just in closing, so our economy, of course, is diverse, and our communities are dynamic and livable with strong community connections. And we often experience that people come to the Yukon for a visit and they never want to leave, and that's quite true. It's an absolutely amazing place. India represents one of the sources of immigration into Yukon right now. India accounts for 16% of successful Yukon nominee program applicants. And one of the driving forces drawing people from India to Yukon was our college. Now that our college has completed its transition into Yukon University, it's the first university in Canada's north. Yukon University has approximately 100 international students from India enrolled, and that number is moving very quickly. That's just over the last few years. We want to expand on this, and continued development of the university should create even greater interest from people from India to move to the Yukon. Yukon is home as well to Northlight Innovation, which is a hub for entrepreneurs to expand their skills and collaborate with other professionals. The government of Yukon regularly communicates with industry representatives to explore potential economic opportunities between our jurisdictions. Technology, mining, and renewable energy sectors, again, are growing and pose great potential for investment. Again, we are truly every year, when we go to the world's largest mining show, we always have an opportunity to meet with the delegation from India. I was lucky enough over the last while in November, Consul General Joshi, while it was in place in Vancouver, had come to visit and I see the High Commissioners on, and welcome previous to that, had met with the Deputy High Commissioner as well in Ottawa. So we really see opportunity, not just in these sectors, but also on the tourism sector as we see what COVID recovery looks like. And truly, when we think about the Indian community, to get right to it, folks, what I've loved seeing is I go to the smallest communities in the Yukon, the most remote communities, and I walk into a business and I see a young Indian person who's moved to the Yukon, and I always spend some time to speak with them and understand what their plans are and why they've made the move. And what we're finding is that our immigration system might be more agile. They have an opportunity to be here, but usually what would happen is people would then migrate back to large urban centers. And really what we're seeing is we have the cleanest air in the world. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity. And when people do move here, what ends up happening is they make a decision to stay. And so they don't decide to move to Vancouver or Toronto or Montreal. So we're, it's beautiful to see that richness of culture coming into our community and becoming part of a vibrant economy. So with that, I think I'll hold there and maybe open to questions or whatever you'd like to have for a format moving forward. Thank you.
Sure. So thank you for those wonderful remarks, Mr. Pillai. As we have discussed previously, okay, so Mr. Erin O'Toole has just joined. As we have discussed previously, I'm working on promoting Yukon and will reach out to you again very soon. So just a quick question for you, as you just touched based upon tourism. Yukon depends heavily upon tourism, and the pandemic has really impacted the tourist traffic as well as the revenue. I was just looking at some recent numbers. So there is a very serious drop. So how and when do you expect Yukon to recover from this?
Yeah, it makes up about 5% of our GDP, 4.5%. I think what we really have to do, we're working directly with industry. We had rolled out in response to the pandemic something called the business, and we were the first in the country to do it. I really don't think any other region had put it in place. So what we did was any business that was in crisis, we covered their entire fixed costs. And we did that for 4 months post-pandemic, and now we've extended that program until March. So that's really a way to hold up or at least sustain some of these tourism businesses. I think in the short run, as we all know, new numbers coming out of Quebec today, new numbers coming out of Ontario. I know that Minister Fedeli, who I keep in touch with quite regularly from Ontario, will talk about their view and impact. I think for us, what we're trying to do is to create bubbles that we can use to still have tourism. And what we mean by that is to be very, very creative in bringing in tourists, ensuring that we keep them in with a particular bunch of businesses, and really separate them from the general population, because we've done so well. Only 15 cases of COVID, everybody's recovered. So really at this particular time, except for one visitor that's come into our territory, COVID free. And so with that, having hoteliers and service providers all work collectively, but keeping the individuals that are coming in from other parts of Canada. We've done it throughout the summer with some of our other parts of our industry with outfitting, and it's worked really well. So I think that's going to be in the short run. And then, of course, we're all waiting to see what happens in Q1, Q2 of 2021.
Sure. Ajay ji, if you want to have a quick word.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Pillai, congratulations on living in the most COVID-free part of the planet. I think that's while the rest of the planet is in lockdown, I think you're fortunate to be in a place free of it. I came in on the 1st of March as the new High Commissioner. So I call myself the virtual High Commissioner because I met everyone only virtually. It's great to make this connection with you today. In March, or I think in May, the Foreign Office was planning a trip to all the Northern Territories. And I was really looking forward to that, but that got cancelled pretty much early on. We only hope that this is only postponed till next year. But we can never be sure. We have to learn to live with this virus, and we're hoping that the vaccine makes its appearance by next year, so that we can, have the ambitions of visiting your beautiful part of the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And we look forward to that visit. We look forward to, as a jurisdiction, working with your office as things calm down. We were, again, hoping we had done a lot of work to identify some great opportunities between both jurisdictions. So again, I want to welcome you to the new role, and I truly look forward to working directly with you virtually or having you here in the Yukon and showing you this beautiful place that we call home.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure. So we'll now move on to our next speaker, and we have another 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A at the end, around 12:30. So now, as you know, if you're a businessman, you know how important it is, how important a meeting with a banker is. And if that banker is the president and CEO of a big bank, you better be on time. So I gave him the time at 11:50 and treat him very well. So please meet our next speaker, Mr. Sandeep Goel, President and CEO of ICICI Bank Canada since April 2019. Prior to that, he was the Chief Risk Officer for the same bank for 12 years. Sandeep Goel is an MBA Finance and Software Systems from IIM Bengaluru, as well as a Bachelor of Engineering, Electronics and Communications from Delhi Institute of Technology. So over to you, Sandeep bhai. Are you there, Sandeep bhai? Okay, so I guess maybe we can continue with our previous conversation then, while he comes back.
Sure.
We were discussing about your visit to India next year, right? We were going to go there earlier this year, which was postponed. So now plans for next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're looking at, again, waiting to see what's going to happen with COVID, and truly, what I can, what might be helpful this morning too is really if there's any questions concerning, opportunities here. I know that we have a lot of different perspectives on your call today. So really, even any questions that individuals want to know about this area or in detail potentially about where there's investment opportunities. But I think actually our very important banker may have just come online here. So
yes, I'm back. Sorry, I think it just went blank.
Oh, really? So I was just giving your introduction.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Vipul. Thanks. So I have a brief presentation.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me just finish the remarks actually. I mean, I introduced you, but about the bank, ICICI Bank is one of the biggest names in the Canada-India corridor. And we are confident that under your able leadership, the bank will grow from 7 to maybe 70 branches and help many more Indo-Canadians and Canadians in general. So now over to you, Sandeep.
Okay, so are you able to see? Okay, so I think I'll have
not right now.
Okay.
I could see you a minute ago, but not now.
Okay, now is it able? Are you able to see?
No.
Okay.
So I guess we all have to open up the accounts with the bank first, before Sandeep ji can give you darshan.
So Vipul, it is not allowing me to share.
Okay.
So anyway, okay, I think I'll make the comments then. That is better. Okay, thanks Vipul, and welcome to all the dignitaries in this call. So ICICI Bank has been present in Canada for last 17 years now. And we have been pretty active on the India-Canada corridor. And we have also innovated along with the growth of this corridor. I think we have seen tremendous growth in trade. We have seen tremendous growth in people movement, both for economic as well as educational reasons. And we have also tagged along and we have innovated in terms of which products are best suited for this corridor. So just to introduce ICICI Group, we are the largest private sector bank in India, dominant market position across retail and corporate segments, market capitalization of close to $40 billion, asset base close to $200 billion. We enjoy investment grade rating from both S&P and Moody's. Very deep inroads into Indian market, almost 25,000 points of presence, 50 million customer accounts, 60 countries where we are present through correspondent banking and trade relationships. And we have physical presence in 15 countries across the globe. And this presence out of India is primarily to serve the India-related corridor in these countries. Like we have presence in US, we have presence in UK, Germany, Bahrain, the entire Middle East corridor, including the Far East corridors. And we have been collaborating with a lot of Canadian companies who are active in India and also active in any of these corridors, because that gives us an advantage to basically grow their business. And if they grow well, they look at the Indian market. In terms of ICICI Canada per se, we are a 100% owned subsidiary of the parent bank. Around close to $6.5 billion in assets, Schedule 2 full service direct bank, member of CDIC, and governed by the local regulators, managed by the local board of directors, which are having a tenured position here. And we have a full range of products on corporate commercial banking, retail banking, and residential mortgages. So I'll just take you through in terms of what we see this corridor as and what all areas we are working on this corridor. Canadian companies, they have diverse interests in India. Some are looking at India probably from a market standpoint. It's a big market, huge market, young market. But we are also talking to a lot of Canadian companies to look at India as a back office for their operations in Canada. Because a lot of US companies as well as Canadian companies have tapped the Indian market for talent. And the cost of acquiring that talent, the cost of operating and retaining that talent is much easier given the ecosystem in India. And if you go to any of these or Hyderabad, Pune, you'll be surprised large US Silicon Valley companies. And same kind of dream we have for Canadian companies to have such kind of outsourcing, back office, innovation centers, testing centers in India. So we are working with a lot of Canadian companies in that regard. So that's a big focus area for us. Second is this whole investment corridor. I think we have heard a lot in terms of how pension funds are looking at India. So we have two broad items which I as a CEO and a lot of my colleagues in the bank are working on. One is bringing India to the smaller funds. See, big funds actually have big plans. They have ability, capability, feet on ground in India. But smaller funds don't have that. So we are taking India to the smaller funds, like city funds, university funds. They have big aspirations. They want to have some India exposure, but they don't know how to do it. So we are taking India to the smaller funds. Also, we are talking to large funds to bring that expertise of Canadian pension management, which is, I think, unique in the world, to Indian pension funds. Because I have discussed this with Mr. Bisaria also, that the kind of model which Canadian pension funds have evolved over the last 10 years, they are one of the most successful pension fund model in the world. And why not learn from this model to bring efficiencies into our own pension funds in India? So that collaboration effort I'm going to lead along with HCI. I am also talking to the Ministry of Finance through my colleagues in India to basically ask these 4 or 5 big funds to present what exactly they've done to the Indian pension funds. Third big segment which we are working on is this whole concept of students. Students, when they come to Canada, they need a lot of assistance in India in terms of student loans, in terms of consulting, in terms of advisory. So we are re-establishing, we are rekindling our whole student ecosystem strategy to basically make sure that the student, when he decides or plans to decide to come to a particular university, we are handholding them, we are providing them the right products, we are providing them the right credit products. And once they land in Canada or US, we are providing them full support in terms of financial services which they need. We are also working on a platform called Unify platform, which is quite unique, which provides payment support for Indian students who are coming into Canada. We are shortly going to announce our collaboration with the Seneca College, which is in the works. So since David is here, I'm very thankful to that opportunity which Seneca has given us. Last but not the least, a full survey of retail products which are available to NRI customers. We bring the Indian bank to Indo-Canadians in India. So whatever you need to do in an Indian bank branch, today we can offer it in our Canadian branches. Most of these services are digital in nature, so they are available to remote parts of Canada where anybody needs any help with their banking in India. So we are working on a full range of products to basically nurture this relationship between India and Canada. I'm happy to answer any queries.
Sure. So so we'll have to move the Q&A at the end now. Honorable Erin O'Toole has just joined us. And it's a very busy time at the Parliament, as we all know. A lot is happening now in Ottawa. So without instead of wasting any time, let me just invite and welcome Honorable Erin O'Toole, a 3-time MP from Durham, Ontario, former Minister of Veterans Affairs in Prime Minister Stephen Harper's cabinet, Honorable Erin O'Toole also previously served as a parliamentary secretary to the Minister of International Trade and as an officer in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Upon completion of his service in the regular forces in 2000, Mr. O'Toole went to a law school in Halifax and became a lawyer. For 5 years, he was an in-house counsel to one of the world's largest consumer products companies, managing all litigation in Canada and advising management on environmental, commercial, and competition issues. Honorable Erin O'Toole also did private practice at a national law firm, working on corporate and business development issues for clients in Canada and abroad. Mr. O'Toole has been an active organizer and fundraiser for several national charities. He was one of the founders of True Patriot Love Foundation, which has raised over $20 million for programs supporting members of the military, veterans, and their families. He is currently the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, leader of the official opposition Conservative Party, and the future Prime Minister of Canada. Please welcome Honorable Erin O'Toole.
Thank you very much, Vipul, for that very kind introduction, particularly the Prime Minister part, and for the opportunity to address all of you, both here in Canada and in India through India Insight and your virtual conference. Everything is virtual now, and I'm glad to participate. Good afternoon to everyone taking part, and good evening to those of you who are taking part from India. I'm pleased to see my friend Minister Parkash amongst us today, Your Excellency, High Commissioner from India, and very glad to see my good friend, the Honorable Vic Fedeli, who is building and making things in Ontario. Great to see you're participating. As Vipul said in the introduction, my name's Erin O'Toole, and I'm the new leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and leader of the official opposition. I'm really excited to join you today on my first day back after a few weeks off with COVID-19. I'm well, my family's doing well, and I appreciate the outpouring of support. India is a critical partner to Canada, and the Indo-Pacific is part of our future as a country, both from a trade, security, and a diplomatic perspective. In fact, in my first speech as leader, I'll be talking about the importance of the relationship with India later today in the House of Commons. In fact, recently I also spoke to a group of Indo-Canadian businessmen who are very optimistic about the potential to not only double, but to triple our bilateral trade with the world's largest democracy, our good friends in India. Canada needs to have a serious Indo-Pacific plan and treat the relationship with respect. Sadly, we've seen under Prime Minister Trudeau that the relationship with India has fallen, has gone down. Tariffs have been imposed, and there has been a chill in relations between the Modi government and the Trudeau government. As some of you may know, I recently became the Conservative leader, and I had a robust team of passionate Canadians from the Indian diaspora in Canada, and trade, security, and partnerships with India was something I talked about every week during the campaign. We need to restart the great work that Prime Minister Harper had done growing trade with India that has been derailed by the Trudeau government, best exemplified by the Prime Minister's disastrous state dinner that left the relationship in tatters. We have to have long-term strategic partnerships in key areas like nuclear energy, like leveraging innovation from Canadian farmers to establish more agricultural partnerships that can guarantee food security for Indians and for Canadians, launching bold initiatives with respect to technology, telemedicine, energy, and infrastructure. We need to strengthen security and scale innovation, generating jobs, investments, and strategic partnerships between Indian companies and Canadian companies. And as you're aware, Canada is going through a very turbulent time with our relationship with China. 2 Canadians, the 2 Michaels, have been unlawfully detained for over 600 days. I believe that we need to do more partnerships in building with like-minded countries like India and other partners in the Indo-Pacific to enhance trade, to build up alternate markets for our goods that could be disrupted in larger trade entanglements with China, and help support India, who has seen the trade and security challenges with China firsthand in the last few months. Rather than fawning over trade potential with China, Canada must be resolute in our commitment to freer trade with freer countries, countries that value liberty and democracy like Canada and like India. We need an eyes wide open approach to how we address China, and we need to build up stronger new relationships with rising world powers at a time that we may have to work in concert to tariff or to push China to follow the rules-based approach to international trade. This gives us such tremendous potential to enhance the relationship between India and Canada because of our shared history in the Commonwealth, our shared commitment to democracy, our shared commitment to the rule of law and to values of security and respect on the world stage. As India's preeminence grows, the partnership with Canada should grow along with it. And to do that, we need to partner with groups like yours, Vipul, with political leaders, chambers, foundations, to help leverage the great person-to-person strength that many Indo-Canadian business leaders bring to helping us enhance and grow the relationship with India in a meaningful and strategic way. A strong and united India is home to unprecedented economic potential for its people. And there's no excuse for Canada to not ambitiously pursue greater and deeper partnerships with Indian companies. With almost 2 million Canadians having roots in India and in South Asia, we have the knowledge, we have people-to-people ties, we have experience, and we have the strength of all of these relationships, chambers, and groups to leverage as we're growing our relationship. Both of our countries should be benefiting from unprecedented growth that will come as a result of strengthening the Canada-India relationship. That is what Canada's Conservatives are committed to. And if we are able to form government in the next year, a strategic enhancement of the relationship with India will be a centerpiece of my government. This will lead to better employment opportunities, more foreign direct investment from India in Canada, and it will build a better quality of life for generations to come in both of our countries. It's well past time for Canada to start opening new markets like the Conservatives did when we were in government and like we need to do after the last 4 years of Mr. Trudeau. We're the free trade party. We're the party that wants to grow and strengthen both trade and security relationships, and that will be a priority for us from day one. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you virtually today, to talk about the importance of the Indo-Pacific to Canada, to talk about the importance of not just trade, but bilateral partnerships in diplomacy and security, and the fact that I think the relationship between Canada and India is just about to enter a renaissance. And I want to work with you to make sure that that renaissance translates into exports, into job opportunities, into investment that will benefit your organization, your leaders, and will benefit all Canadians. So Vipul, thank you again for the opportunity to meet with your group today. Thank you for your own personal leadership on this file. And I look forward to working with you as official opposition leader, or as you said in your introduction, hopefully as the next Prime Minister of Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. What you said was music to the ears of all Indo-Canadians. I can assure you that. It's also so good to see you recovered quickly and back in full force. So it's always, I mean, a pleasure to talk to you. We have spoken before your leadership team also. So you have many other pressing issues, I understand, and also you have the parliament to go back to. But I would just like to ask you one quick question myself, and then maybe a couple of speakers may want to have quick remarks with you. So under your leadership, although you have touched based upon several things already, but as you said, I mean, yes, we see, we can expect a more robust Canada-India partnership under your leadership. But still the question was, I mean, what can we see, where can we see the relationship, you know, specifically, and what way will it be different than they are now?
Well, certainly the two areas I mentioned in my speech, Vipul, that I think are immediate huge partnerships are in agriculture and agri-food and in energy and infrastructure. Certainly, as you know, from a perspective of both CANDU nuclear technology and uranium, there's been a long, generations-long relationship between the two countries. I'm optimistic about that because nuclear power generation is greenhouse gas emission free. So as both countries come up with ways to tackle emissions, particularly emissions for the generation of electricity, the world's largest democracy will need power to power that incredible economy, and to make it greenhouse gas emission free, I think is the way to go. The other thing is agri-food and agriculture in general. Canada is known for our tremendous agricultural exports from lentils to soybeans to food and grain and oil seeds like canola. What we've seen is, as we have disruptions with China, who use trade to push other countries around, we need to grow alternate markets. And the potential of growing our market in India is just too good to pass up. As you know, the first thing that India did on a formal basis after the Prime Minister's disastrous trip, where there'd been someone participating in the formal events who had actually been charged with a crime trying to assassinate an Indian politician in Canada. You know the disastrous story. The first thing the Indian government did after that state visit was put tariffs on lentil trade between Canada and India. So it's an example of, we've even seen the great trade established under Harper start to erode under Trudeau. So those two areas will be a priority for a Conservative government.
Sure. Ajay ji, if you would like to have a word.
Thank you very much, Vipulji, and thank you, Mr. O'Toole. It's wonderful to see you for many reasons. Thank you for your very, very candid and warm remarks about India. This is something that really appeals to all of us. I'd also like to, kind of wish you well, because you've shaken off this virus which has locked down the entire planet. And you're here to talk to us today. So that's wonderful, auspicious. I also welcome you as my neighbor on Acacia Avenue. We see that your house is being readied, and I look forward to conversations across the fence with you, which can be even more candid than the ones we're having here. But thank you very much. I think I've already said my piece at this comments on things that you've said already. You know, on the trade piece, you're absolutely right. We have crossed the 10 billion Canadian dollars mark, but the potential is way more. You mentioned thrice. Yes, certainly we can get to that mark of $30 billion. And I'm sure we will very soon. On the bigger news, of course, is the Canadian investments in India, which have now risen from about $5 billion to $55 billion. We are confident that number will cross the $100 billion mark in the next 2 or 3 years, because India is providing this huge opportunity to Canada in terms of the areas you mentioned: infrastructure, energy, and also real estate and logistics. But you also mentioned a couple of other areas, and I am happy to inform you that on the nuclear side, things are going well. I was last week in Saskatchewan, and I had a meeting with Cameco, and the agreement that was initiated 5 years ago has gone on very smoothly on the supply of uranium to India, and we are hoping to extend it by another 5 years. I also had the opportunity to discuss agriculture, and again, that is a huge area of promise. We want to go to the next level in ag tech and get the kind of technologies we need. I can share with you that in India, we are going through what we call the 1991 moment in agriculture, And we are hoping that we get into another revolution in agriculture, and we will need Canadian help, Canadian technologies in that, particularly in pulses and on what is being called the protein corridor. So we need your partnership on all these areas. You mentioned the Indo-Canadian community. Of course, I've heard you speak about that many times. It's well represented here in this platform, but we work very closely with them. 1.6 million already, growing at immigrants coming in at 80,000 a year. So this is a growing community, and one in leadership positions almost everywhere, in politics, in science, in technology, and of course in business. You mentioned China. Yes, that is the story of the next 20 years. We think that if looking at the broader geopolitics, the way the next 20 years are going to shape up is that you will have two rising Asian powers, one of which is going to be believing in democracy, rule of law, peaceful engagement, globalization, fair multilateralism, and the other one is not. It is already showing its belligerence this year and its impatience to get to the top. So I think we are, as we've been saying, natural partners, India and Canada, and we have a great future ahead. And I look forward to working closely with you in guiding this relationship forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellency. Your points are well made and appreciated, and I'm not surprised to see some overlap between the ambition for the relationship that you're expressing and the ambition that our Conservative Party certainly has. And I can thank you as well for your kind wishes of health. I thought to be a good future neighbor, I should clear up from this COVID-19 thing before I show up in the neighborhood. So as you know, we're not there yet, but Goldie Heyer and other people have already told me that I can look forward to a chat across the fence line, and I very much look forward to that, and to meeting more with your family and my family, because the people-to-people tie, the ambition we set as leaders, will really set the tone for what the next 20 years are like in the Indo-Canadian relationship. And as you said, there was a rise of two nations in the Asia Pacific, and Canada has strong, historic, and million strong people-to-people tie with India. We have to be part of that incredible story that's already taking place, and I think it will only mutually benefit both of our citizens. So I look forward to working with you, High Commissioner, and thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your remarks and for your leadership here in Canada.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful exchange, Mr. O'Toole. So the next speaker is Mr. Fedeli, but do you want to have a quick word with Mr. O'Toole?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you very much, Vipul. Hello, leader. It's great to see you. I'm so proud of the work you've done in a very short period of time. The significance of what has happened so far. We knew we all made the right decision. I'm so proud of you, Erin. I'm just bursting with joy for you, pal.
Well, thank you very much, Minister. And your work in terms of the Made in Ontario, you're setting a real example. And I know Premier Ford asked you to deliver a very ambitious program within a pandemic on very short timeline. Your leadership, Vic, has been so evident throughout the launch of this program. And I'll tell you, in my riding, in the GTA, in the Ottawa region here, people are talking about it. So keep up your continued leadership. And I do want to see more Made in Ontario being exported to India. So best wishes with your remarks. And thank you again, Vipul, and everyone for the opportunity today.
Yes, just 1 minute more actually. MPP Deepak Anand very aggressively promoted Ontario, Invest Ontario, right after Invest India presentation. So, you know, you have got Ontario covered very well. So as Mr. O'Toole, as you know, the students coming from India is a very important segment, you know, that contributes to Canada's GDP and gives fantastic educated citizens to Canada later on. So now we have among us Mr. David Agnew, the president of Seneca College, home to many Indo-Canadians. So his official remarks, formal remarks are a little bit later on. But before Mr. O'Toole leaves, Mr. Agnew, if you want to have a quick word.
Well, thank you very much. An honor to meet you this way, Mr. O'Toole. It's, and I have to say, of course, it's wonderful to see Minister Fedeli here as well. We've actually traveled to India together, so yeah. We're old India hands. But I do want to say, Mr. O'Toole, I was just delighted to read and to see during your leadership campaign, but now, of course, as the leader of the official opposition, your understanding of the importance of immigration to Canada. And your understanding the importance of international students to Canada. It really, it's of course, there's a financial aspect to it. We all know that, but it's such an important way of cementing ties between people. And both you and His Excellency, the High Commissioner, have mentioned the people-to-people relationship that's so important to underpin that Canada-India. This can't just be about dollars and cents and trade. It has to be about people. And of course, like politicians, I guess educators would say, we're in the people business. So wonderful, and thank you so much for your remarks.
Well, thank you, David, for your leadership. In fact, your college is a leader, not just within Canada, within North America. And when I was in the Harper government, my first job was on the trade file, building that education tie in terms of foreign students, both at the college and university levels. And this is going to be an area that is particularly acutely affected by COVID. I know you're already scrambling with budgets, as my friend Don Lavisa is in Durham. And we will work with you if we're fortunate to form government, because providing that assurance for foreign students as they come here that they can study and do a mixture of the online and campus experience, the mixture of that training that our colleges gives, and then the potential of having many stay or at least deepen trade ties upon their return. It is such a multiplier to our economy. So keep up your important work, particularly through these difficult times. More and more Canadians need to know how education is one of our major GDP drivers and is also one of our major diplomatic forays, because even if people don't stay, they go back as champions for our country.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you very much. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. We are fortunate to have you as the leader of the official opposition, and looking forward to working with you more closely in the days to come, especially on the India file. So now from the national leader of the PC party, we now move to Ontario. Honorable, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Vic Fedeli is the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Government of Ontario, since June 2019. One second. Since June 2019, he is the chair of cabinet and former Minister of Finance. Mr. Fedeli was the leader of official opposition in Ontario, as well as the leader of the PC party of Ontario from January to May 2018. A three-term MPP from Nipissing, Ontario. Thank you for giving us time, sir. This is our third webinar, I guess, in the last 2 months. 2 webinars with you and the conference. So thank you for your continued, patronage. So please welcome Mr. Vic Fedeli.
Well, thank you very much, Vipul. I want to say thank you. I want to say welcome to everybody. Good afternoon to some and good evening to others. Namaste. I am so excited to be joining you today. I have to tell you, Vipul, yes, this is our third one. And don't tell the other countries, but we haven't done this with any other country. India has such a close and personal feeling for all of us. I want to say hello to the High Commissioner. I want to say hello to the Consul General, a great friend who's been together with us on many occasions. David, whoops, something is going on. David, I want to say hello to you as well, and it's great to see you again. And Deepak, thank you very much for this MPP, Deepak Anand. Thank you very much for all of your work and for continuing to school us on all that is India. You've been a valuable resource and quite frankly, Deepak, a great friend. So it's exciting to join all of you today. I'll speak as Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and tell you that our government understands the importance of growing the strong relationship that both India and Ontario share. Our government's top priority is to ensure that Ontario is open for business, open for jobs, open for investment and trade. And that means that we're moving at the speed of business to identify trading partners, partners like India, to pursue mutually beneficial economic growth. Now, I don't have to tell you these stats, so you know them already, and I've talked to them in every speech that I've given. India is a major economic force, in fact, the 5th largest in the world, home to over 1.3 billion citizens, 1.3 billion consumers. India is one of the fastest growing markets. Now, this is where some of the numbers get to tickle me. Two-way trade between Canada and India did grow at a rate of 12% since 2014. In 2019, two-way trade between Ontario and India totaled 3.4 billion Canadian. But I thought this was a typo, and I've said this to you over the last years. 400 million of it is from Ontario to India, and 3 billion of it is the other way. In a country of 1.3 billion people, we only ship you $400 million worth of goods and services. So that's a really interesting statistic that we're going to work on both ways. We want to increase both those numbers. But less than 1% of India's total imports originate from Canada, and only 12% of Canadian exports to India are from Ontario. So we have a lot of work to do together. But we're committed to see that number grow, and we want it to grow substantially. So we have identified India as a priority market and led several successful business missions there, including one last November. And we would have been there this month, October, next month after tomorrow. We would have been there again. And I can't tell you, I was saying to Rahul Bedi, my chief of staff, just this morning, oh my gosh, we would have been in India in the next couple of weeks. I can't believe we didn't get down there, get over there. But we will be back and we'll make it our priority. So over the course of 5 days last November, we led 12 Ontario business delegates who participated in nearly 150 business-to-business meetings, site tours, networking events, and we met with hundreds of Indian companies. It was a great opportunity to hold business meetings with top Indian companies and tour them, like Tata Group and Tech Mahindra, ICICI Bank. And I know that President Sandeep Goel is here today, joining you today. We promoted Ontario's very strong open for business, open for jobs plan. We rolled it out a year ago to the audience of hundreds of Indian business leaders, and virtually everything that we said we were going to be doing over the next year is now done, and we're ready for that next phase. We have to tell you that our message was very well received, and it resulted in announcement of VVDN Technologies opening a new facility in Kitchener-Waterloo that created over 200 engineering jobs in Ontario. You have David here. Seneca College signed several memorandums of understanding demonstrating that Ontario's strengths in skills development and training are in high global demand. We had the advancement of a formal partnership with the state of Karnataka, your leader in IT, and that provides Ontario with a competitive advantage to access this market and develop new opportunities for more trade, more investment, more partnership. And we signed a deal there. We signed an MOU with NASCOM Of course, India's largest not-for-profit industry association with representing about $180 billion worth of tech industries with membership of over 2,200. And since we signed that MOU in India, they've returned here to Ontario where we hosted them and we're sharing their opportunities to bring back to India as well. And that was a real two-way trade deal. And looking back, that was less than a year ago. And you can imagine all that happened, even in this COVID climate, so much has happened between India and Ontario. So today, we as a global community and as a global economy, we face new challenges because of COVID pandemic and while we wait to recover from this pandemic. But we're committed to Ontario's economic recovery, and that has meant pivoting quickly to transition our export development opportunities and our activities to a digital format like we're doing today. In fact, just recently we led successful online delegations to virtual, right into a virtual version. You know, we did the annual Farnborough Air Show in the UK. We did the Detroit Auto Show in the US. We did it all virtually. And today's opportunity to connect through the Canada-India Insight Virtual Conference is another great example of our international outreach efforts. So as Ontario reopens our economy and we recover, it's more important now than ever to explore new partnerships, new opportunities to increase two-way trade and investment. We know far much more work needs to be done to ensure that Ontario continues to be open for business. That's a cornerstone of our government's COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act. A centerpiece of our plan is new investment attraction agency called Invest Ontario. Invest Ontario will promote the province as an attractive investment destination and will focus on key sectors that are primed for growth and expansion. Invest Ontario will build upon a solid foundation to ensure that we emerge stronger than ever. And through our strong open for business agenda, we're building bridges, not barriers, to trade. We're supporting our small and medium-sized businesses with market access and intelligence through our Ontario Trade and Investment offices in both New Delhi and Mumbai, so that they can expand and export to India with confidence. We're providing valuable market intelligence, support services through our agencies for Ontario companies and introducing suppliers to incoming buyers from India so that our businesses have the tools they need to diversify their trade partnerships and maximize those global opportunities. We're giving companies access to an international talent pool. You and Erin spoke about this a moment ago through the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, so that our workforce has the skills needed to meet the demands of an evolving economic landscape. And we're directly connecting businesses in India and Ontario to create new deals through targeted trade and investment missions to strengthen the economic corridor between our two jurisdictions. So Vipul, thank you. And today's conference is a great example of that work. We're going to continue to strengthen the relationship between Ontario and India. And I have to tell you, on a personal level, I just simply cannot wait to come back to India. Thank you, Vipul. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the wonderful remarks and your continued support, Minister Fedeli. So as you were saying, I mean, in terms of Canadian companies going to India and the Indian companies coming to Canada, I mean, ICICI Bank can certainly facilitate both, for local companies going to India, Indian companies coming here. So, Mr. Goel, Sandeep, if you want to address that.
Yes, Mr. Fedeli, I'm privileged to meet you. I have not met you in person, but I have written to your office. I would like to seek a meeting with you one-on-one. We are doing some brilliant innovation work on this corridor, and we would like to seek your guidance and direction in terms of how we can collaborate and how we can work together. I know the teams are engaged with you, but still I would like to meet you personally. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Sure. So
I know my staff is on this call as well, so I've taken my notes, but I'm hoping my staff is ready to reach out to you and arrange that.
Yes.
Arrange our get. Thank you.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that as well for you. Last but not the least, a long-time friend of India and a visionary leader in the education sector, Mr. David Agnew, president of the Seneca College since June 2009. Mr. Agnew has previously been the president and CEO for UNICEF Canada and a secretary of cabinet for Government of Ontario. He is the vice chair for EQAO and vice chair board of directors for Polytechnics Canada. Mr. Agnew also served as ombudsman of banking services and investments. He has been to India several times and is very bullish on further collaboration between Canada and India, especially in the education sector. So over to you, Mr. Agnew.
Well, thank you very much, Vipul, and thank you for organizing these wonderful webinars. Although I have to say they're a bit of torture because, like the minister, I mean, I can't wait to get back to India, and I have to tell you that when I have my peanut butter sandwich, it does not hold up to the cuisine I know that we would be having if we were in Delhi or Mumbai today. You know, can I just say to the minister? I mean, Ontario is doing exactly the right thing, and that shouldn't surprise any of us. But it's leaning into this. It's not stepping back. It's not pulling back. It's leaning in and saying, you know, the rewards will come to those who will be remembered during the worst of times as being good friends. And I think that's exactly the right strategy, and it's one that we're trying to adopt as well. So, so thank you for your leadership, Minister. It'll help us get back on our feet so much faster, and it's much appreciated. And I know it's very hard as this virus proves to be far more persistent and virulent than any of us had ever hoped. Well, I won't take much of your time. You know, I stand between you and adjournment, so this is a difficult and challenging spot to be in. But if I can say, and I'm going to borrow a phrase from Joe Biden, not one that he used last night, I assure you. Those were slightly unparliamentary. But really, this is all about building back better. You know, it's interesting when you ask the question of particularly of a statistician who does trade statistics. Well, what's the value of trade between Canada and India? You hear all sorts of numbers, but you never hear the value of the huge number of Indian students coming to Canada as what. In fact, it outstrips any single good or service that's traded between our two countries. It's quite remarkable. But of course, as I was saying earlier, we can't reduce this huge community of Indian students in Canada, which persists, I have to say, to this day, as challenging as it is in these times to travel, partly because there are so many students already here when the virus hit. But it's such a more important thing than simply a traded good. It really is that bridge, that people to people that, again, others have spoke about. It's the bridge between our two countries and societies. It's the people side. I mean, not only, of course, are Indian students now the single largest contingent of international students coming to Canada, but they also make up the largest number of new permanent residents to Canada. And it's what's been really interesting to watch, because I've been in post-secondary now for 11 years, and communities, and this is of course prior to the pandemic, but communities that could not attract an international student, you know, for the last couple of years have been home to literally thousands of international students, many of them Indian, in communities that we would not simply expect. And Minister, I know your colleague, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, Minister Romano, is working very hard on a strategy of how we can leverage all that talent that is in our international students to build some of our smaller northern rural communities back, who, as you know, sir, are challenged to keep their young people and challenged to keep their skilled workforce intact. And I think that's a terrific strategy. Well, of course, you know that we, like so many businesses and operations, we all went virtual last March. And have to give our employees amazing credit for doing a terrific job of finishing off the winter semester. We're one of those big 3-semester schools, so we had 13,000 students with us from May to August. And of course, now we're all launched, and I'm speaking for pretty much all of post-secondary, we're all launched into our fall semesters, and we're all doing it pretty much the same way. We're calling it hybrid. And what that really means is pretty much everything on the campus is closed except for a few labs and a few studios. And our students are coming in to do those programs, and then they're leaving. So it's a hybrid experience, but it's of course far from the experience we had pre-pandemic. But like the minister, we're sort of doubling down on our relations with our partners, and of course we're privileged to have several great partnerships in India. In fact, Minister, I'm very pleased to report to you, because you were witness to our memorandum of understanding signing with TIMSR in Mumbai, the Thakur Institute of Management and Studies and Research. We opened a joint fintech center, and we've now just completed our first program with TIMSR and graduated those students from a course that we delivered jointly, and of course in these times virtually. We did the same thing with one of our partners in Agra in computer design, networking, and publishing on the internet. Of course, we still have close to 1,500 nursing students with us from India, many of whom will be seeking a permanent career in Canada, helping our healthcare system at, of course, a time that it could not be more important to be part of that system. So we're just very, very pleased with our current relationships, and look forward to not just sustaining them, but as I keep saying, renew them and reinvigorate them once we're able to do so in a different way than virtually. But I think one of the new opportunities that has come up, and for those who don't know, India has now a new education policy. And I think this is an area where we can develop new and richer partnerships with some of our post-secondary education partners and new ones. You know, I would modestly put ourselves forward as a kind of institution that has some experience in the areas where India wants to develop in its education system. A higher level, more sophisticated kind of career and profession-based vocational training. That is exactly what, you know, Seneca as a kind of a polytechnic institution does. Moving from kind of a test-based, lecture-based kind of education to a more interactive, more competency-based education system. Again, something we've been doing for years. And of course, as we all know, and the pandemic's laid kind of this bare, we need to reskill and upskill so many of our people, including adults. And again, that is something that we've been experienced in for literally our 53 years of existence. So we look forward to exploring those new opportunities, as well as, of course, welcoming students to our campus, now virtually as well as in person. And of course, building those academic and training partnerships that we're so pleased to have so many in India. So I'm the kind of person who jumps on the call simply to make sure that we've got education at the forefront of our thinking when we're building and rebuilding and strengthening the Canada-India relationship. I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but it's extremely important to the entire country, and I have to say to the health of the Canadian economy in the long run. That we have that kind of great relationship with India. So thank you, Bipal. I appreciate you inviting me. I appreciate, in some cases, meeting some of you, seeing some good friends, and wishing everyone to be well and safe.
Thank you, Mr. Agnew, for your continued great work on the Canada-India corridor, and especially now, as you rightly said, with the new education policy. You know, there are endless opportunities, you know, in many new directions also. So looking forward to working more closely with Seneca, as we have been doing now for the last little while through such conferences and webinars and the Canada-India Insight monthly publication that we have. So before I go on and give my closing remarks, the High Commissioner, Mr. Bisaria, has been with us throughout. So if you want to recap, you know, what you have heard or discussed, and then we'll have the closing remarks.
Thank you, Vipulji. I think this has been a 3-hour morning well spent. We're getting unused to 3-hour conferences. We're doing them all in 30 minutes. So I just jumped off a 40-minute conference to join yours. But this has been absolutely worth all the time we spent. And let me just talk about for 2 minutes about the last two speakers. Both Minister Fedeli and Mr. Agnew, I think, are strong friends of India, not just friends of India, but India hands. They know India so well, thanks to their last visit and all the associations. So it's wonderful to hear all their comments. But what I'll do is I'll just give one comment for each. Now, Minister Fedeli talked very rightly about tech and innovation as the future of the relationship. And I think what we've done over the last 3 or 4 speakers, including Mr. Erin O'Toole, is talked about the future of this relationship, which is a future of technology, innovation, increasing trade from 10 to 30 billion dollars, increasing investment from 60 to 100 billion dollars, and Ontario increasing its own numbers of trade that currently exist. During one of the Invest India presentations, they talked to us about India's $3 trillion economy, having the goal of becoming a $10 trillion economy in the next 15 years. So that is the $7 trillion opportunity for Ontario. We will need to fuel our growth with natural resources, with exports, with imports from you, and all these opportunities exist. The funds are already looking at it, but there is a huge goods opportunity. On the human capital that we've been talking about, we are sending a great deal of human capital to you already, increasing the size of the 1.6 million diaspora. But you're very right, Mr. Agnew. The education policy of India is a hugely ambitious document. It hasn't rolled out yet because of the pandemic, but one of its central objectives is to make India a hub for skilled manpower. And that's where we need your help. So we need technologies in most of the areas we've been discussing, but including in the education sector. And lastly, I think with Ontario, there's a huge scope. I was there a couple of weeks ago, fortunate to have visited physically before what you're calling the second wave came in. But I had these conversations, and we see huge potential, particularly with Ontario, not for any good reason. We have, for very good reason, we have a consulate in Toronto. We send some of our best folks. You've been talking to Apurva. She's one of our best officers. And we work closely to take forward this relationship, particularly with Ontario. So thank you very much for both your interventions.
So thank you for that, sir. And although it was a 3-hour conference, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, this was supposed to be an in-person conference in March for exactly 3 hours. That was an evening event with dinner and all that. So I didn't want to change the format too much, so we have saved money on the dinner.
You owe us dinner. You owe us dinner.
You owe us one dinner, definitely.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. It will be a pleasure. But we'll follow this up with a series of smaller events. That's what we do anyway, with a half an hour, 45-minute, 1 hour segments on different sectors, touching base upon both Canada and India. And as our organization is a trilateral, Canada, India, US, so we'll also be doing a few things on that front as well, Canada, India, US, because everybody benefits, with a broader cooperation. So at least, I mean, based upon what we have heard today from all the speakers, Canada-India relations seem to be on a very strong footing and hopefully becoming stronger. We will continue to play our part through webinars, through events, conferences, publication, and the not-for-profit forum. And as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we are now getting new memberships as well. So with more companies joining, we will be getting more ideas and more activities in the days to come. Special thank you to all our sponsors, supporters, and well-wishers, including ICICI Bank, Tangentia, Surti Sweetmart, and Seneca. So the good thing is that I believe we have actually concluded every single segment right on the time, started on time, finished on time. And the 1 o'clock closing hour, we are just about approaching 1 o'clock. And that's it for today. The conference is now officially over.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well
everyone.
done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. That was wonderful.
Thank you, sir.